Good morning. Today we're going to read Chapter 7 of the Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. We left off yesterday where Edward sank to the bottom of the ocean floor and he felt his first genuine true emotion, which was fear. For the first time, Edward was afraid. Okay, so now in Chapter 7, we're going to see what happens to Edward. If you look at the questions over here at the bottom of the screen, it says, why is Edward so happy? What do you think will happen next? Okay, these are just a couple questions I want you to be thinking about at the end of the chapter, and then I want to hear your responses in the Google Classroom. Okay, if you have a parent next to you, I'm going to stop, I'm going to talk throughout the chapter, and I want you to be able to have somebody to talk to, okay? He told himself that certainly Abilene would come and find him. This, Edward thought, is much like waiting for Abilene to come home from school. I will pretend that I am in the dining room of the house on Egypt Street, waiting for the little hand to move to the 3 and the big hand to land on the 12. If only I had my watch, then I would know for sure. But it doesn't matter. She will be here soon, very soon. Hours passed, and then days, and weeks, and months. Abilene did not come. Okay, I'm going to pause right there for a second. Notice that it says hours and days and weeks and months. Okay? Have you guys ever had to wait for something for a really, really long time? And I'm sure all of us have. And I want you to think, how did that make you feel having to wait for so long? Months, weeks, days, hours. How does that make you feel? Or anybody, how does that make somebody feel when they have to wait a really long time? So I want you to think, how do you think Edward is feeling at the bottom of the ocean right now? He's now been there for months. Talk about it with a parent. You're right. I think he'd be feeling lonely. I think he's feeling scared. I think maybe he's thinking, what if Abilene doesn't even love me anymore, that she didn't come to get me? Okay, there's a lot of things that could be going through Edward's mind right now. Let's keep reading. Edward, for lack of anything better to do, began to think. He thought about the stars. He remembered what they looked like from his bedroom window. What made them shine so brightly? He wondered, and were they still shining somewhere even though he could not see them? Never in my life, he thought, have I been further away from the stars than I am now. He considered, too, the fate of the beautiful princess who had become a warthog. Why had she become a warthog? Because the ugly witch turned her into one. That was why. And then the rabbit thought about Pellegrina. He felt in some way that he could not explain to himself that she was responsible for what had happened to him. It was almost as if it was she and not the boys who had thrown Edward overboard. So she was like the witch in the story. No, she was the witch in the story. True, she did not turn him into a warthog, but just the same, she was punishing him, although for what he could not say. On the 297th day of Edward's ordeal, a storm came. The storm was so powerful that it lifted Edward off the ocean floor and led him in a crazy, wild, and spinning dance. The water pummeled him and lifted him up and shoved him back and down. Okay, I just want to pause right there real quick. I don't know if you guys are aware of how long 297 days are, but for a whole year there's 365 days. So Edward was at the bottom of the ocean for almost a whole year. That's a long time. Okay? Help, thought Edward. The storm, in its ferocity, actually flung him all the way out of the sea, and the rabbit glimpsed for a moment the light of an angry and bruised sky. The wind rushed through his ears. It sounded to him like Pellegrina laughing. But before he had time to appreciate being above water, he was tossed back down into the depths. Up and down, back and forth he went until the storm wore itself out, and Edward saw that he was beginning again his slow descent to the ocean floor. "Oh, help me," he thought. "I can't go back there. Help me." But still down he went, down, down, down. And then suddenly the great wide net of a fisherman reached out and grabbed the rabbit. The net lifted him higher and higher until there was an almost unbearable explosion of light, and Edward was back in the world, lying on the deck of a ship surrounded by fish. "Eh? What's this?" said a voice. "Ain't no fish," said another voice. "That's for sure." The light was so brilliant that it was hard for Edward to see. But finally, shapes appeared out of the light, and then faces, and Edward realized that he was looking up at two men, one young and one old. "Looks like some toy," said the grizzled old man. He bent and picked Edward up and held him by his front paws, considering him. "A rabbit, I reckon. It's got whiskers and rabbit ears, or the shape of rabbit ears at least." "Yeah, sure, a rabbit toy," said the younger man, and he turned away. "I'll take it home to Nellie. Let her fix it up and see it to the rights. Give it to some child." The old man placed Edward carefully on a crate, positioning him so that he was sitting up and could look out at the sea. Edward appreciated the courtesy of the small gesture, but he was heartily sick of the ocean, and he would have been satisfied never to set eyes on it again. Okay, I'm going to pause right there real quick, and I'm going to read that sentence again, and now we can tell that Edward is feeling his second emotion. I want to talk about what kind of emotions that he's feeling, okay? So the old man positioned Edward on a crate so that he was basically sitting up on the boat and he could look out and see all the ocean around him, okay? He could have just thrown him in the crate face down and then just took him home to Nellie, which we don't know who Nellie is yet, but I'm going to make an inference, or I'm going to assume that that's his wife. But instead, he put Edward on the crate, sitting up so he could see out. He could have a view of the whole ocean. And it said, Edward appreciated the courtesy of this small gesture. Okay, when we appreciate something, what kind of feelings are we feeling? Okay, I know that when I appreciate when somebody does something for me, I'm feeling thankful, I'm feeling grateful, okay? I'm feeling loved. Maybe I feel like I'm being taken care of. What are some things when you feel appreciation? When you feel thankful? What are some feelings? How does it make you feel? Talk about that with your parents. Okay, good. Let's keep reading. "There you go," said the old man. As they made their way back to the shore, Edward felt the sun on his face and the wind blowing through the little bit of fur left on his ears, and something filled his chest, a wonderful feeling. He was glad to be alive. "Look at the old rabbit," the old man said. "Looks like it's enjoying the ride, don't it?" "Ah, yep," said the young man. In fact, Edward Tulane was so happy to be back among the living that he did not even take the umbrage of being referred to as it. Okay. So now Edward has another feeling. He has a wonderful feeling. He's happy to even just be alive. What a difference from the first few chapters when he felt like he was high and mighty with his suits and his scarf, and he felt like he was too good to even listen to the adults' conversation. He didn't even like it when Abilene hugged on him. He thought, oh, she's hugging me again, right? What a difference in the attitude after being on the ocean floor for almost a year and he was rescued. Now he has such a wonderful feeling that filled his chest that he's so happy to be alive and to be back among the living that he didn't even care that he was referred to as an it instead of a rabbit. Okay? So I want you to be thinking, why is Edward so happy? I know we just talked about it, but I want to hear in your own words in the Google Classroom, okay? When I do the written response, I want to hear in your own words, why do you think Edward is so happy? And what do you think is going to happen next in the story? The old man, the old fisherman said he's going to bring him home to Nellie and Nellie will fix him up. Who's Nellie? What do we think is going to happen to Edward now? Okay, have a good day, guys.